My loving audience take my love and subscribes my channel. And dive B&B stories. Was this really just a business idea? Or is RJ about to start a family war without even realizing it? Because RJ believes he has found a solution to a major issue. He thinks the company needs a real youth line again, and his mind, Electra could be the perfect face for it. Sounds simple, right? Well, not when Hope is the one being pushed out. That changes everything. RJ may be viewing this as a fashion decision. He sees a gap in the market. He sees a younger audience that needs a fresh face. He sees Electra and thinks, this could work. But Ridge sees something else. He sees Brooke. And more importantly, he sees Brooke's reaction when she realizes her daughter could be replaced. That is where this situation becomes complicated. Because Hope is not just any model who happens to be connected to the company. She is Brooke's daughter. She has a history with the brand. She has a history with the family. So telling Brooke that Hope is no longer the right person for the youth line is never going to feel like a simple business move. Brooke is going to take it personally. And honestly, can you blame her? If someone came to you and said, we think your daughter should step aside because we found someone younger and fresher, how would you react? Exactly. That is why Ridge's warning to RJ is so important. Ridge knows Brooke is going to struggle with Hope being replaced. He knows this is going to hit an emotional nerve. RJ may think he is solving a business problem, but Ridge knows he could be causing a family conflict. And the difference between RJ and Ridge is interesting. RJ is looking forward. Ridge is looking at the whole picture. RJ wants the company to move into the next generation. He wants to prove that he understands what younger customers want. And I actually understand why he feels that way. RJ is young. He has grown up around some of the biggest names in fashion. He knows the company has to change if it wants to stay relevant. So when he says there is no real youth line without Hope, he is already admitting something important. He knows the youth market matters. But then he takes it one step further. He thinks Electra can bring that energy back. And that is where I think RJ may be making a mistake. Not because Electra cannot do it. She absolutely could. The problem is how RJ is approaching the change. There is a big difference between saying, let's build something new with Electra, and saying, let's replace Hope with Electra. Those two ideas may sound similar, but emotionally they are very different. If Electra gets her own opportunity, that could be exciting. It could give the company a fresh look. It could bring in younger customers. It could even give the show a brand new fashion rivalry. But if Electra is presented as Hope's replacement, suddenly everyone starts comparing them. Who is better? Who has more potential? Who connects with younger customers? Who deserves the spotlight? And just like that, a business decision becomes a personal competition. That is when things can get ugly. And there is something else RJ may not be thinking about. Electra could get caught in the middle. Imagine being Electra. You are given this huge opportunity. You are told that you could become the face of a new youth line. Of course you would be excited. But then you realize the opportunity is connected to someone else losing her position. Now what? Electra did not create that situation. She did not ask to replace Hope. But Hope could still start seeing her as the person taking her place. That is not fair to Electra. But that is how emotions work. People do not always blame the person who made the decision. Sometimes they blame the person standing in front of them. And that could make Electra's life much more complicated. She could suddenly become the face of a rivalry she never wanted. And RJ needs to understand that. Because I believe RJ is too focused on proving that his idea can work that he might not be considering what will happen after the announcement. That is a common mistake. You come up with an idea. You get excited, you see all the possibilities. But then you forget to think about who might get hurt. And in this case, that is especially dangerous. This is not a normal company. In a regular fashion house, you can replace a model. You can change the campaign, you can bring in a new face. But here the people involved are family. That makes every decision more complicated. Hope is connected to Brooke. Brooke is connected to Ridge. Ridge is RJ's father. And suddenly, one decision about a youth collection could put all three relationships under pressure. That is why I think Ridge is right to warn RJ. He is not necessarily saying that RJ's idea is bad. He is saying, think about what happens when you put this idea into motion. That is a very different conversation. Ridge may actually like the idea of fresh energy. He may understand why RJ thinks Electra could work. But Ridge has something RJ does not have. Experience. Ridge has seen these family fights before. He knows that the first argument is rarely the real argument. The real issue is usually something deeper. Respect. Loyalty. Trust. And in this case, Brooke could feel like Hope is not being respected. That is the part RJ needs to understand. Brooke is not going to look at Electra and simply say, "Okay, new model. Good luck." She is going to ask why Hope is suddenly not good enough. That question could put Ridge in a terrible position. Because what is Ridge supposed to say? If he supports RJ, Brooke could feel like he is choosing business over Hope. If he protects Hope, RJ could feel like his father does not believe in him. Either way, Ridge is stuck. And that is what makes this story so interesting. Ridge is not just dealing with a business decision. He is dealing with his son. He is dealing with Brooke. And he is dealing with Hope's future. One wrong move could make all three relationships worse. Now let's talk about Hope. Because I really do not think Hope is going to quietly accept this. She may be hurt. She may be angry. She may even question whether she still belongs in the company. And honestly, that could be the most interesting part of the whole story. Because what happens when someone feels like they are being replaced? Sometimes they walk away. But sometimes they fight harder than ever. I could see Hope doing the second one. Imagine Hope hearing that Electra is being considered as the new face of the youth line. First she might be shocked. Then she starts thinking about everything she has built. Everything she has put into the company. Everything she thought her future was going to be. And suddenly, she realizes that her future is not as secure as she believed. That can change a person. Hope could start asking herself some serious questions. Was she only valuable when her line was successful? Did the family really believe in her? Or were they just waiting for someone younger to come along? Those questions could hit hard. And if Hope decides she has something to prove, watch out. Because she could come back with a completely different attitude. Instead of begging for her old position, she could say, "Give me a chance. Let her prove herself. Let her compete." That would actually be much more interesting than simply having Hope lose everything. And it could create a fantastic rivalry. Hope and Electra could represent two different ideas about the future. Hope has experience. Electra has freshness. Hope knows the company. Electra brings something new. Why not let both women compete? Why does one have to disappear for the other to succeed? That is the question RJ should be asking. Because maybe the smartest move is not replacing Hope at all. Maybe the company needs both. Think about it. Hope could bring an established audience. Electra might bring a fresh, more modern perspective. Combining that with another idea could give the company something much more significant. But of course, this is the bold and the beautiful. The most logical option is often the last one people decide to go with. That's why I expect emotions to play a big role. Brooke is likely to see Electra's idea as a threat to Hope. RJ might view Brooke's response as an overreaction. Hope could see Electra as a competitor. Electra might feel guilty, even if she hasn't done anything wrong. And Ridge is going to be right in the middle of it all. That's a recipe for conflict. There's also something deeper happening with RJ. I think part of this is about proving himself. RJ has spent his life in the shadow of his father and the rest of this powerful family. He has watched them make big decisions for years. Now he wants to show that he has his own ideas. He wants Ridge to listen to him. He wants to be taken seriously. That's completely understandable. But there's a risk when your confidence becomes tied to just one idea. If RJ presents this youth line plan and everyone resists, he may start to feel like they're not just rejecting the plan. He might feel like they're rejecting him. That could make him stubborn. He might start defending his idea even more strongly. Not because it's definitely the best option, but because admitting he could be wrong might feel like a loss. That's part of human nature. We all do it sometimes. We make a choice. Someone challenges it. Instead of backing down, we push harder. RJ could do exactly that. And if Brooke criticizes his plan, he might become even more determined to prove her wrong. That would only make things worse. Because then this is no longer about fashion. It becomes a matter of pride. Once pride enters the room, it's hard to get anyone to give in. Ridge may eventually have to sit down with RJ and ask him a difficult question. Are you doing this because it's truly in the company's best interest? Or because you want to prove you're right? That question could change everything. Because RJ might not realize how personal this feels to him. He wants to be the one who finds the answer. He wants to be the one who brings back the youth line. He wants to be the one who introduces the next big star. And if Electra becomes successful, RJ can point to her and say, "I saw her potential." That is a powerful feeling. But if Hope succeeds instead, RJ could feel like his whole plan failed. That could create resentment. And that is another reason why this storyline could grow much bigger. Now imagine Brooke confronting RJ. I can already see the tension. Brooke could ask him why he thinks Hope should be pushed aside. RJ could explain that the company needs change. Brooke could say that change doesn't mean throwing Hope away. RJ could insist that this is about business. And Brooke could respond, "She is your family." That is when the argument becomes personal. RJ may not intend to hurt Hope at all. But Brooke could still feel like he is doing exactly that. And if Brooke becomes emotional, Ridge is going to have to step in. But whose side does he take? That is the million-dollar question. Because Ridge may agree with RJ on the business side. At the same time, he may understand Brooke's feelings. That is a tough position for him. Imagine being Ridge. Your son comes to you with an idea that might actually be smart. You don't want to crush his confidence. But you also know your partner will be devastated if Hope is replaced. What do? Support your son? Protect Hope? Keep Brooke happy? Try to find a compromise? There may not be a perfect answer. And that is why Ridge could become the key character in this storyline. He has to balance ambition with family. And those two things don't always go together. Now, I also think this could be a major opportunity for Electra. But she needs to be careful. If Electra starts believing she has to defeat Hope, she could easily become insecure. Every success could feel like another reason for Hope to hate her. Every failure could make her question whether she deserves the position. That kind of pressure can change people. Electra needs to understand that she doesn't have to replace Hope. She needs to become Electra. That is the better story. Give her her own style, her own identity, her own reason for being there. If she does that, she can succeed without turning Hope into an enemy. But if everyone keeps calling her Hope's replacement, the rivalry is almost guaranteed. And then RJ could make another mistake. He could start treating Hope and Electra like they are competing products. But they are people. That distinction matters. Because when you start comparing people like products, feelings get ignored. And that is exactly what could push Hope over the edge. She may decide she is done trying to earn approval. She may decide to build something on her own. And if Hope does that, RJ might regret pushing her away. Because sometimes the person you underestimate becomes the person you cannot stop. Think about how powerful that would be. Hope takes the rejection personally. Instead of giving up, she creates something new. Electra gets the youth line. Hope creates her own competing vision. Now Ridge has two strong young women pulling the company in different directions. And RJ has to watch the situation he created turn into a full-blown competition. That would be a great twist. Because RJ may believe he is fixing the future. He could actually be creating his biggest competitor. And there is another issue here. What does legacy really mean? The Forrester family talks about legacy all the time. Legacy does not simply mean clinging to the past indefinitely. A fashion company must evolve. New individuals must join. New ideas must be explored. New talents must be found. RJ is correct in that regard. However, legacy also does not mean treating people as if they are disposable. That is where RJ needs to find balance. The company can progress without pretending the past never existed. Hope can still have a role. Electra can still have a role. The youth line can change without making one woman the winner and the other the loser. That would be the healthiest outcome. But again, healthy solutions are not typically what soap operas are known for. So it would not be surprising if this situation becomes even more complicated. Brooke might challenge Ridge. Hope might confront RJ. Electra might feel trapped. And RJ might become even more determined to prove his plan is right. The more people resist him, the more he could push back. This is when his original good idea could turn into a personal conflict. I also want to see how Hope handles her emotions. She does not need to shout. She does not need to attack Electra. A calm and confident Hope could actually be very powerful. She could look at RJ and say, "Fine. Let me show you what I can do." That would place the pressure right back on him. Because then RJ would have to judge Hope based on what she actually produces. Not on assumptions. Not on nostalgia. Not on emotions. If Hope comes back strong, RJ may have to admit he moved too fast. That could be a significant moment for him. It would force him to grow. That is something I would like to see. RJ does not have to be the villain here. He can make a mistake. He can learn from it. He can realize that leadership is not about always getting your way. It is about knowing when to listen. That could be his most important lesson. And Ridge can help him learn that. Ridge's warning about Brooke may actually be his way of giving RJ that opportunity. He is essentially telling him, think before you act. Because once Hope is publicly replaced, it becomes much harder to reverse the damage. People remember humiliation. They remember rejection. They remember who stood by them and who did not. Brooke certainly will. And Hope probably will too. That is why this situation could leave a lasting impact on the family, even after the fashion issue is resolved. Maybe the youth line is successful. Maybe Electra becomes a huge success. Maybe Hope eventually finds another place in the company. But the relationships could still change. RJ might lose some of Brooke's trust. Hope might stop trusting RJ. Ridge might find himself caught between them for a long time. And Electra could wonder if she really belongs in a family business where every opportunity comes with so much drama. That is what makes this story bigger than fashion. It is about belonging. Who belongs at the table? Who gets a voice? Who gets the spotlight? And who gets pushed aside when the next generation arrives? Those are strong questions. And honestly, I think RJ has good intentions. I do not think he is trying to hurt Hope. I believe he genuinely thinks he is helping. He sees a problem and wants to solve it. He sees potential in Electra. He wants the company to feel younger again. Those are not bad goals. She needs to be cautious. Because if she becomes the face of the new youth line, she may suddenly find herself in the middle of a fight she never started. As for Hope, this could be the moment that forces her to decide what she really wants. Does she want her old position back? Or does she want to prove that she can create something even greater? That decision could change everything. And RJ should probably think twice before assuming that pushing Hope aside means the story is over. It may be the exact thing that makes her fight harder. So yes, RJ might have a good idea. But the way he deals with this situation could decide whether he becomes a wise young leader, or someone who unintentionally breaks his family apart. And that is what interests me the most. Because in the end, this isn't really about Electra replacing Hope. It's about whether there is space for both of them to shape the future together. If RJ can understand that, maybe he can turn this situation into something positive. But if he doesn't, then Brooke, Hope, Ridge, and Electra could all end up on different sides. Once the family starts taking sides, you can already tell things are about to get very chaotic. So tell me in the comments, do you think Electra deserves to become the new face of the youth line? Or is RJ making a big mistake by pushing Hope aside? And do you think Brooke will be able to stay calm when she finds out what RJ is planning? Or is she about to go straight to Ridge and demand answers? Let me know your thoughts because I want to hear your predictions. If you enjoyed this bold and the beautiful commentary, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Because if RJ really thinks this is just a fashion choice, he might be in for a very unpleasant surprise. He is trying to build the future. But the future he wants could come at the cost of someone he never expected to lose.